Kay the Career Coach, and I'm here today to talk about tips and tricks for your resume. So hopefully you guys have already watched my 3 other videos related to the resume. When I first recorded this, it was a very long video, and I realized that I should probably break it up into 4 different sections to make it a little bit more digestible and easier for y'all to follow. So these 4 videos that I have, the first one is related to Resume 101. So when you're first getting started on creating your brand new resume or updating it, some kind of things to keep in mind. The second video is related to sections to include in your resume. So I talk about each of them in detail. What are kind of the essentials, the non-negotiables, and then what are some add-ons? If you have a lot of space still, what can I add into my resume to kind of fill it up and to make me sound good? Not smell good, sound good. The third video is related to smart description. So when you get to the work experience sections and leadership experience sections, how do I take my descriptions or my bullet points to the next level to help me really get noticed by recruiters? And this last video right here is just tips and tricks about your resume. So I'm going to talk about some final things as you're wrapping up your resume. Maybe you're hitting some roadblocks. These are some things that you can keep in mind to apply to your resume. But yeah, all of that being said, I do want to remind y'all that I am a career coach. So I help students and young professionals advance themselves and really get to that next level to find their new job. So the 3 main services I have are related to resumes, elevator pitches, and interviewing. And what I do is I work with my clients one-on-one with personalized coaching to really look at their accomplishments, the things that they have already achieved, and align them to the things that companies are looking for so that you can be noticed by recruiters, so that you can be placed as a top candidate on their list, and so that you can get those offers and those opportunities for a job. So that is what I'm here for as a career coach. If you would like to book a one-on-one session with me, check out my website, taylorosmith.com. And book you an appointment. If you have any questions prior to booking that, feel free to email me or to DM me on my social media accounts. I'm going to put all of that in the description below, but feel free to meet up with me so I can help take you to that next level. All right, so we're going to talk about resume tips and tricks. So I want to talk about 13 I think it's 13 tips and tricks to kind of keep in mind as you're polishing and finishing up your resume. So the first thing I want to talk about is your name. So you want your name to be the biggest and the boldest on your resume. Of course, you want people to know whose resume this is, kind of back in the day when we weren't in a pandemic, and people were giving paper copies. If I might have a few candidates that I really like, put them in a stack of papers, and I'm trying to look for your name. If your name is too small, I might not be able to quickly find it. So that's a reason to have your name big and bold on your page. I like to do about size 22 to 40 size font. But yeah, go ahead and have your name. That's important, y'all. Next thing, if you feel like your name might raise some questions as regards to sponsorship, then you can go ahead and create a note literally right underneath your name that says U.S. citizen, no sponsorship required. So that is 100% up to you, totally optional, but that is something that you can add to your resume if you feel like it's needed. Next, so less is more. When it comes to bold, italics, and underlining, sometimes I see people get a little bit crazy with this, but you want to make sure that you kind of keep it simple, maybe just the titles and some information that does need to be bolded, like your GPA, etc. But just keep that in mind. You don't need to go crazy with all of that stuff. In addition to that, I want to add this in. I do talk about this in the Resume 101 video, but you do want to make sure that your resume is 1 page. And in order to achieve 1 page, you can decrease the margins if needed. So if you are running out of space, decreasing the margins on the left and right, the top and the bottom, that gives you a little more wiggle room to work with. And so that's just a little trick that y'all can use to help you. If you feel like you don't have a lot of experience and you're trying to take up space, you can even increase the margins a little bit. So that will help you. Just don't do it too much, y'all. Okay, what's next? So you want to make sure your recent experiences are at the top and they have the most bullets. So some people may argue that you should have your most relevant experiences at the top. That really just depends on how many experiences you have, what is it that you're applying for, your job, etc. But I typically like to have the most recent experiences at top because it helps me with organization, to understand chronologically this is what I've done the most recent. This is what I did next. This is what I did next. So I can kind of see the time span or the calendar, right, of when you did all these things. But whatever description or job you have at the top, you want to make sure it has the most bullets. So I have this position from 5 years ago. That one's probably going to have about 1 to 2 bullets. Versus the one at top that's going to have more like 3 to 4. I don't want to have my experience from 5 years ago to have 4 bullets while my most recent one only has 1 to 2, because you need to talk more about the things that you were recently doing. You can't always just pull back to the stuff from years ago, because that's going to raise some questions to people on why can't you tell me more about the things you are working on currently. So that's something to keep in mind. I know sometimes it can be a little bit of a stretch to pull information, especially if you worked on like a project or something where you didn't do a lot, or it feels like it, you only worked on one thing. Sometimes it's just a matter of kind of stretching those things into 2 bullets, or maybe even pulling in trainings and other things that you did to include. So if you need help with that, that's what I'm here for as a career coach. You can definitely book some time with me, and we can look at your resume to set that up. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is make sure that you keep your resume very simple and neutral. So I see a lot of people who really want to get, like, they want to stand out. They want to get noticed by recruiters. And I understand that 100% because I was that person, right? And so they try to add color to their resume. They try to do all these formatting things and, you know, not make it look funky, but, you know, just doing the most versus just like a standard template, you know, that's very basic and simple. And honestly, you want to just keep your resume simple and neutral, because some of those colors can be a little bit off-putting to the recruiter. And also, you don't want to spend so much time on what your resume looks like when it's really more about what's in here. So if you think about if you're dating someone, yes, you do appreciate what they look like. That's what's going to reel them in at the beginning, but you care more about the content, the quality of the person. And that's the same thing with your resume. You do want your resume to be visually appealing to an extent. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful thing ever, because realistically, they're only going to probably look at this for about 30 to 60 seconds. They might spend an extra 5 minutes if they're really impressed those first few seconds. But you want to spend most of your time in the quality and the content and that you're putting in your resume, because you could have this beautiful resume, but if you're not having good quality content, if you have a bunch of fluff on your resume, then that doesn't really benefit you. So just keep it simple, keep it neutral, and focus more on your content versus what it looks like. That's what's really going to help you get jobs. So something to keep in mind, y'all. What else? Make sure you add experience to your resume that makes you stand out. So I had a business where I sold Oreo truffles my freshman year of college, which are basically like cake balls but made of Oreos. And one of my mentors convinced me to put that on my resume. And that made me stand out because recruiters would remember me as this cupcake girl. I didn't even make cupcakes, but that's what they remembered me for, and it stood out in their brain. Obviously, I had other impressive things on my resume that made me stand out as well, but that was something pretty cool. I know somebody who is an engineer, and he also really liked horses, so he was a part of this organization where like he rode horses, and like I think they did some farm stuff, so that was on his resume. You know, that's very impressive. That makes you stand out in a recruiter's mind. Sometimes we can't always put our hobbies and organizations we're involved in on our resume, especially if you have a lot of experience, and that needs to take up more space. So just kind of keep those things in mind. You can still do little things like include professional affiliations, you know, like maybe my sorority or organizations I'm involved in. I don't talk about them as much detail as I did before when I was in college. But that's just something to keep in mind, especially those who may not have a lot of space on their resume. Make sure you remain relevant though. You don't want to just talk about random stuff that, you know, I don't know, I don't want to throw anything out there, but make sure it's somewhat relevant. You know, it can apply to like, you know, business skills as far as me, you know, with my business, and the other guy, you know, he was getting leadership skills working in those organizations. So do keep that in mind, the relevancy. All right, so make sure you get involved early to build your resume. So if you are like an undergrad student, maybe you're somewhere between a freshman and a junior and you don't have any work experience, you don't have any leadership experience, then you need to go ahead and get involved. Go get some leadership experience. Go get involved in organizations. Go do community service events with them. Go join a committee so you can help plan events, or you can plan fundraisers. There's different ways to really get yourself out there so you can build these experiences and add them to your resume. Get more involved in your class projects in school and take them more seriously so you can add those to your resume as well. Those skills are transferable and applicable in the workforce. So get involved early so you have more to add to your resume. What else? So when you start to save your resume, make sure it is saved as your first name and your last name resume. So for example, mine would be Taylor Smith resume. I might add some other stuff like January 2020, so I know like what version I'm on, and I have my most recent resume. Sometimes I might even have different resumes for like engineering jobs versus like if I wanted to work in retail again, I have that listed. And so, yeah, you want to make sure you follow that format. And the biggest reason for that is if a recruiter starts saving your resume and putting this in this company database, it doesn't just say resume version 2. I have no idea who is resume version 2. Now I got to click on the resume, figure out who this person is, and I got to resave the file with their name. So make sure that you just kind of go ahead and do that to save that recruiter some headache if possible. And also, you want to make sure that you save your resume as a PDF copy. So the biggest reason for this is that if you send it to somebody, you don't know what device they're looking on it. I don't know if you've ever like sent something to yourself in Word and open it on your phone or PowerPoint or something, and the formatting is like all jacked up. That's because it's not a PDF copy, and the formatting is going to be different on every device. So if you send it as a PDF, you know that the formatting is correct. There's going to be no problems or issues there. And then also, nobody can make any edits or changes to your document. It is what you created. So go ahead and send it as a PDF. If you're applying to anything and need to upload it, if you're sending it to a recruiter or interviewer, if you're saving it on your phone, etc., unless someone asks you for the Word copy. In addition to that, the next tip is to go ahead and keep a copy on your phone. So you have that Books app. For my Apple users, Android, I'm sorry, I don't know what yours is called. I know there are scanners and other PDF applications you can use, but you can save that on your phone so that if you do meet someone at a random networking event or passing by or in an elevator and you pitch your elevator pitch, you can easily send them your resume. Or I have that on my phone. I can send that to you right now immediately. I don't have to wait until I get home or give a business card or vice versa. I do know some people, they do have like scanners on their business cards that uploads to like a Google Doc, which I think is really awesome and sweet. But you got to make sure sometimes those people have access to that file. And then also the whole formatting thing, it might mess up. So I like the idea of a Google Doc, so that way people always have the most up-to-date version of your resume. But I think a PDF copy might be just a little bit better. But use your own discretion for that. What else? So ask for a second opinion. So I know I talked about this in the first video where I talked about resume 101, but make sure you review your resume, you proofread it, but also ask someone for a second opinion because they may be able to share some information with you that you may have not even considered or challenge your thinking and say, oh, wow, I did something that is very valuable that kind of undermined, that relates to this industry I'm applying to, so I should include that. So definitely do that. You can reach out to a career coach. You can reach out to a mentor. And then lastly, I mentioned this in my first video again, treat your resume like a cheat sheet or a study guide to the test. So think of not the elevator pitch, but think of the career fair and think of your interview as a test. And you want to make sure that you study in advance. So when you study for a test, right, you usually create a cheat sheet or you have some kind of study guide that you create or either the teacher gives to you. And you want to make sure that you review it and you know it like the back of your hand. So when you go into the career fair, when you go into your interview, you really know what you're speaking to and your experiences, because a lot of the time, those people are going to ask you, hey, tell me more about this experience here at Abercrombie. Hey, tell me more about your experiences with this senior design project. And you want to be able to talk about it and not be like, well, well, it's right there on the paper. Basically, as you can see, you want to be able to add some more detail as well, but you also want to know exactly what you're talking about in reference to that. So I hope this video was helpful. Some final tips and tricks related to your resume. Please check out my other videos I mentioned before. That should really help you if you're creating your resume for the first time or updating it, especially if you want to get noticed by recruiters. I will have more videos along the line where I talk about elevator pitches and interviewing. I also have another series called The Tea with Taylor, where I talk about some of my personal experiences, failures, and success related to my career journey. So feel free to check that out as well. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. If you want to get that personalized help and coaching, career season is quickly approaching. Go ahead and book an appointment with me on my website, taylorosmith.com. Message me on my socials, or drop questions down in the comments. Let me know what you want to see next. But again, thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe in YouTube, and I will see you guys next time. All right, bye.